All right, let's talk about cybersecurity. Whether you're totally new to this or just want a refresher on the essentials, we're going to break down the absolute core ideas that keep our digital world from falling apart. Okay, let's get into it. So right off the bat, a quick question for you. When you hear a cybersecurity expert mention the CIA, what comes to mind? Because I can promise you it's not the one you're probably thinking of. This is literally the foundation of, well, everything. Yep, if you were thinking confidentiality, integrity, and availability, you absolutely nailed it. This is the CIA Triad, and it's basically the entire mission statement for anyone working in security. The whole game is about keeping information secret, making sure it's trustworthy and accurate, and ensuring you can actually get to it when you need it. So, let's really dig into what that mission means. We're going to look at what it takes to keep secrets, to make sure data stays true, and to keep the lights on. Okay, now this is a distinction that trips a lot of people up, but it's super important. Confidentiality and privacy. See, confidentiality is all about secrecy. Think of it like a company protecting its secret recipe. But privacy, that's a personal right. It's your right to control your own data, which is why we have big laws like GDPR in Europe. They're connected for sure, but they are not the same thing. And this table just lays it out perfectly. It shows you how real-world hacks attack the CIA Triad. Someone snooping on your Wi-Fi at a coffee shop? That's a direct hit on confidentiality. A hacker getting in and changing numbers in a financial document, they're attacking the integrity of that data. And those massive denial of service attacks that knock websites offline, that's a full frontal assault on availability. Every attack out there is trying to break at least one of these three pillars.
All right, let's move on to the battlefield. Because before you can even think about building a defense, you've got to know what you're protecting, where your weak spots are, and who might be trying to get in.
So first thing we have to define is an asset. An asset is just anything that has value to your organization. It can be customer lists, secret formulas, financial records, you name it. The easiest way to picture it, it's the good stuff inside your house, the jewelry, the cash, the important papers. Okay, so you have assets. Next up is a vulnerability. All this is a weakness, a gap. It could be a piece of software that hasn't been updated, a really simple password, or even an employee who hasn't been trained properly. In our house analogy, the vulnerability is the window you forgot to lock.
And that, of course, brings us to the threat. The threat is the person or the thing that can actually take advantage of that vulnerability. It's the burglar walking down the street who happens to notice your unlocked window. You see how all three have to line up? You need the valuable asset, the unlocked window, and the burglar for a crime to happen.
Now, let's be realistic. You can't fix every single potential problem at once. So how do you decide where to start? Well, you use a simple grid like this one. You ask two basic questions. One, how likely is this to actually happen? And two, if it does happen, how bad is the damage? A risk that's high probability and high impact? Yeah, that jumps right to the front of the line.
Once you've identified a risk, you really only have 4 ways to deal with it. You can avoid it, just stop doing the risky thing. You can mitigate it, which is a fancy way of saying you make it less risky, like putting a better lock on the window. You can just accept it, deciding it's not a big enough deal to worry about, or you can transfer it, and that's exactly what you're doing when you buy insurance.
Okay, so we've figured out what we need to protect. The next logical question is, who gets to come anywhere near it? This is where we get into access control, and honestly, the best way to think about it is as a digital bouncer at the door of a club.
So how does our bouncer check your ID? In the digital world, it boils down to 3 things. You prove who you are with something you know, like a password, something you have, like your phone or a key card, or something you are, like your fingerprint or your face. Using an ATM is the classic example. You need something you have, the card, and something you know, the PIN.
And this whole check-in process happens in a very specific order. First is identification. That's you claiming who you are, like typing in a username. Second is authentication. That's you proving it with that password or fingerprint. And finally, authorization. This is the system looking you up and saying, okay, we've confirmed who you are, but what are you actually allowed to do? Just because you're allowed in the building doesn't mean you have access to the vault.
Now, companies manage these permissions using a few different models. You've got mandatory access control, or MAC, which is super strict. The rules are set from the top and nobody can change them. Perfect for the military. Most businesses, though, use role-based access control, or RBAC. It's simple. Your permissions are based on your job title. Then there's discretionary access control, or DAC, which you probably use every day without realizing it. That's when you own a file and get to decide who you share it with, just like on Google Drive.
So how do we actually pull all this together and build our digital fortress? Well, the number one rule is that you never, ever rely on a single wall. The strategy is called defense in depth. You want layers, lots of overlapping layers. So if an attacker gets past one, there's another one right behind it waiting for them.
This diagram is a great way to see that in action. You have a firewall at the very edge of your network, your first line of defense. Then, inside, you have switches that manage traffic. And then the actual servers have their own security controls. Each one is another hurdle an attacker has to clear to get to the important data. And inside those layers, you have tools that do different jobs. Some are for prevention. A firewall is basically a big lock on the door. Others are for detection. Think of an intrusion detection system like a motion sensor alarm. It doesn't stop the burglar, but it sure makes a lot of noise. The best security, of course, uses both. You want to lock the door, and you want an alarm if someone starts trying to pick it. But look, even with all those defenses, a really determined attacker might get through. So what happens then? That's when you better have a rock-solid response plan. It's really not a question of if you'll ever have a security incident. It's a question of when.
A really effective response plan is a cycle. It's not a straight line. You start with preparation, which is everything you do before an attack. Then comes detection, realizing something is wrong. After that, containment. You got to stop the bleeding and isolate the problem. And finally, and this might be the most important step, you have the post-incident phase. You have to learn from what happened so you can make your defenses stronger next time.
Now, during a really big incident, you'll hear two terms: disaster recovery and business continuity. Their focus is key. A disaster recovery plan, or DRP, is all about the tech. It's the plan to get the servers back on and the data restored. But a business continuity plan, a BCP, is bigger. It's about keeping the whole business afloat, even if it means working from a different location or using backup systems. It's about how you keep serving customers no matter what. And what is the one thing, the absolute bedrock of any recovery effort? It's backups. But listen, not just having backups that you have tested and you know for a fact you can restore. When you're hit with ransomware or a major failure, a good backup isn't just a safety net, it's often the only thing that's going to save you. So, to wrap it all up, we build these incredible digital fortresses, right? With firewalls and layers of protection and incident response plans. But I want to leave you with one final question to think about. After all that technology, what is consistently, year after year, the weakest link in the entire chain? It's us, the people. Thanks for tuning in.